he was an accountant executive at his exit. He has worked with notable insurance companies, including Staco Insurance and Hogg Robinson Insurance Brokers. Another panelist on the block is Mr. Shola Adekoya. Mr. Shola Adekoya is the MD CEO at Otalium, a company he founded and managed since 2018. Prior to Otalium, Shola worked at Konga, where he resigned as the CEO. Prior to joining Konga, Shola was in charge of financial planning and budgeting at Etisalat Nigeria, a Nigerian telecoms operator. Shola's prior experience includes working for Vodafone Group, where he worked across 8 European countries. We also have Mr. Isaac Orolugbagbe. Mr. Isaac Orolugbagbe is a senior fellow at the Strategy, Entrepreneurship and SPEB Department of Lagos Business School and an adjunct faculty, Strategy and Corporate Governance at Strathmore Business School, Nairobi, Kenya. He sits on the boards of different companies, including Skyway Aviation Handling Company Limited, SACO, Korea Plus Nigeria, Resta Express PLC, among others. Look, we also have Mr. Tope Obushemo. Mr. Tope Obushemo is the founder of Crystal Digital, an educational technology company that develops and deploys customized and service-oriented software applications. The company also offers IT training for educational institutions in Nigeria. Mr. Tope Obushemo holds a Master's of Science focused in information technology from the University of Salford. To this extent, I would like to welcome our panelists once again for making our time to join us on this webinar. Another very important person I would like to introduce to us is Mr. Egbert Imomo, our chairman, Investment One Financial Services. I'm sure, Mr. Welcome, sir. You're welcome, sir. Okay. Okay. So we'll be proceeding immediately to put questions. So the order in which this webinar would go is that we have a couple of questions for each of the panelists, and we will read out the questions to the panelists, and thereafter each panelist has 5 minutes to deal with his own question. I'll begin with Dr. Basil Onugu. Dr. Basil.
Yeah, I'm here.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well, sir. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. So the question is, what advice do you have on how businesses can survive this short to medium term, and what plans need to be put in place for the long term, financial planning, cash flow management, debt repayment, etc.? In 5 minutes, sir, please, we'd like you to do justice to this question.
Yeah, thank you very much. For small and medium scale enterprises, I want to remind them that what is happening today is global. It's not unique to Nigeria, neither is it unique to SMEs. Even medium and large scale companies are facing the same challenges. So having appraised this, what do we do? The answer, we don't have to give up, because the challenges are not unique to any one SME. Now, another takeaway is that the challenges do not revolve around financing, which many SMEs just give. If you tell them what is your main problem, say funding, finance, how can I get finance? Research and experience has shown that funding is not the critical success factor for SMEs. So what are the critical success factors? Is ability to analyze your strengths, your weaknesses. What do you do well? What can you do better than others? What services can you provide better than your competitor? So first, you identify a service gap or a product gap, which people would like to have. If you identify it and zero in to fill that gap, either in form of service or in form of product, people will come to you, and then money will come as the routine. So people normally take the wrong approach by saying, I want to make money. Once you start with that initial conception that you want to make money, you have already failed. So identify a service gap, zero into it. Now, the challenges, the current challenges, how do we combat it? We have to also look inwards. What is it that we can do better than other people? What are the opportunities that have crystallized or potential opportunities that are inherent in the challenges? Because as Chinese people say, in every crisis, there is an opportunity, a hidden opportunity. So we have to now shift the paradigm. There has to be a paradigm shift. That is, it is no longer going to be business as usual. We have to do things differently because we have what many people have described as the new normal. So the question is, how do I fit? How does any given SME fit in the new normal? SME, depending on the area of focus, the challenges vary, but there can be little modification. For example, if the SME is involved in services that can be delivered online, this is a time to acquire the skill, the digital skill to deliver your services online. Many people work at home these days and they make so much money. So it's an opportunity here. In fact, even after the COVID, you find that the way businesses are going to be done will differ markedly from the way it is done presently because of the new emerging opportunities. Now, in terms of, so every SME should sit down, put heads together, analyze what can we do better than other people? What are the service gaps? Once you identify that, that will now lead us into the planning, financial planning. You ask yourself, how much do we need? Luckily, the CBN and the federal government, they appreciate the enormity of the challenges. So they have created some windows for SMEs specifically. In fact, just yesterday, CBN increased the interest rate on SME loans to 5% with 1 year moratorium. So if you know what you do well, you can put up together business plan and submit to CBN or any of the microfinance banks, and they will process the facility and you get the loan. Now, still on the financial planning, the financial structure that every company is funded by either equity or equity and loan. It is always better to start with equity, your own savings. Then get friends, trusted friends also to put in their own equity, and then relations. That will now up the quantum of equity. So you may be needing little loan because the loan, you don't get loan, even the CBN loan that is 5%, it is still a cost. You don't get it free. You have to pay the interest and then eventually pay the principal. So it's always good to have a lot of equity in the small scale industry. Now, there is a percentage known as optimal capital structure. That's the relationship between a loan and equity. Once a company strikes that point, you won't have problem in cash flow management. You will not have problem in other returns, like even cost of production, because you find that the skills, if you have adequate skill, management of the company will manage the cost of inputs so well, so that your gross profit, which you get by subtracting the sales from sales, you subtract what does it cost you to produce your goods or services. The difference gives you that gross margin. And you find that if you have good management, good accountants, and good operations people, which are very critical in the success of SME, you find that you will always make profit. And I said, once you are satisfying the need, money will come as a byproduct. Now, going forward, what do we do? Going forward, you look at because every company has a vision or a purpose, then objective, then strategy for achieving that mission and objective. So you have to put in long term. How do we grow? How do we expand? How do we deepen? Because you may continue what you are doing now by deepening it, that doing it on a larger scale and also enjoy economies of scale. Or you can accommodate via into new areas, depending on the emerging opportunities, which you discover from the environment where you're operating. Through environmental scanning, you'll be able to identify those services gaps that are inherent in the particular environment, a particular sector, and you continue to veer into it. Now, cash flow management, I said, is taken care of if you have appropriate relationship between the equity and the loan. You will not have any problem. Then again, you make sure that your sales as an SCME, that the preponderance of sales are on cash basis. Because these days you can't trust on credit sales because so many things are happening to various people. So their cash flow could be impeded. So it's always better if you can have up to 90 or higher percentage of your sales in cash. It solves that flow problems. Now, what are the key success factors? One, competence, relevant skill, resilience. That is, never give up. Because there's no human being that has succeeded in life that did not fail at a time or another. But people don't give up. Don't give up. Have that resilience. Because if you continue doing what you are doing, even if you are having hellish challenges, you will eventually come out of it because no condition is permanent. So there's no giving up because of the inherent challenges. Now, another thing I would like to mention is that it's always good to have good skills. You do not do things just because another person is doing. There's nothing like copycat. If you rely, like some people have had their hands bored because they saw somebody who brought in container of rice. You don't know what that person, don't align, maybe the person has already assembled off-taker so that as soon as that container is arriving, he offloads and then goes to bring in another one. And then again, you find that depending on the area you're operating, we have trade unions who could frustrate your effort. So before you go into a business, or as I said, as I mentioned earlier, go into environmental scanning to ensure that there's free entry and free exit. If there's no free entry, then ask them, what does it take for you to enter so that people do not edge you out unceremoniously?
Thank you very much, Dr. Basil.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Basil. That was very insightful. I'm sure as time goes by, we would be able to accommodate some more comments from you, sir. I would like to inform the attendees that if you have questions, you can just type in your questions in the question and answers platform where we have here. We will take the questions as time would permit us once the panelists have concluded with their several presentations. So going forward, we would like to hear from Mr. Isaac Arolugbagbe. Mr. Isaac Arolugbagbe, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. So the question that we'd like you to answer for us is, what is the role of corporate governance, HR issues, such as manage staff force, address apprehension, etc., and also we would like you to advise us on entrepreneurship, startup seeking capital at this time. You have
Thank you very much. First, I would like to apologize. It's raining heavily on my side, so you may be getting a little disruptions from my voice. Corporate governance, to me, we have to look at corporate governance from two perspectives. At a time like this, the most important issue as far as compliance is concerned will be the health and safety of employees and people who come to our premises to do business with us, or those who are conducting businesses on our behalf moving around the country. Rules have been given by the Center for Disease Control. We also have guidelines that we have gotten from WHO. And of course, the Joint Task Force of the federal government and the various state governments have also given guidelines. It's very simple. We all have to comply. As chief executive or business leaders, it's our duty to make sure we don't run foul of all those directives. In addition to complying, we have to educate our staff. We have to make sure everybody is aware, know what COVID is about, know how you can catch it and what it does to you, and then generally be in top form as far as your health and immunity is concerned. The third one is to provide kits for those who are working for us. Face masks, you have to give to them, gloves when they do need, sanitizers, facilities to wash hands, and then to maintain the safe distance in our office premises. That will be as far as compliance is concerned. Then in attempt to try to make money in this critical period, tendency for people to want to cut corners will be very high. This is not a time to just cut corner. Even though you are in a rush or you may want to do things expeditiously, it is still very important to make sure that all the controls that the company has set down will follow. Because 3 months down the line, when people read or look at what you've done, will you like to feel good with yourself, or you don't want to create an embarrassment situation for yourself? So as far as compliance is concerned, we all just simply have to follow the laid down rules and make sure we are all safe. On the other side, which is performance, this is the time we must ask ourselves, why are we in business? What is our object clause? What is the need for our services and our products? Some people find themselves in difficult situation now. For those who are in hospitality and tourism industry, those sectors have really been properly negatively hit. Whereas in some other sectors, things are getting better for them. If you find yourself in telecom, I mean, they're just making money, people are talking and chatting, and the data volume is increasing. Education is hit. Now, you have to ask yourself, how does COVID and COVID environment affect you? For most people, revenue is shrinking, and for some others, it's opportunity to look at other ways to serve their customers. If you have been a brick and mortar business, people come to your office to buy, it is time to see whether there are alternative channels that you can use to sell. It is time to check what is the cost implications of COVID situation. A lot of us are coming to work now and receiving hazard allowance. All this goes into the bottom line of the company. Transport costs have gone up. A lot of things have gone up. And of course, we have the devaluation that is going hand in hand with COVID. Most of the input costs have gone up by at least 20%. So, and of course, most importantly, around this time, some of the factories where I am involved are suffering from supply chain disruptions. Suppliers that have never failed in 2 years are suddenly having challenges clearing raw materials. Even the backups are failing. So it is time to really look at and engage all these people. And of course, our finance manager, this is a time when we will like to enjoy the benefit of having a good finance manager in the house. All these variables must be put through stress tests. We want to know what will be the implications of all these scenarios on our revenue, on our profits, and on our cash flow. And of course, in order for us to continue to meet our business goals, one of the greatest things that we must continue to do now is engagement. You have to engage your customers. Whether they're small or big, this is a time that you must be talking to them all the time. You should find out from them how best can you serve them in these difficult times. And if you engage, I mean, in my case, I've seen a lot of beautiful things that came out when you talk to your customer. They can give you so many other options, how you can remain in business, how you can continue to serve them. And in fact, in the process, new services will emerge, new channels will emerge, and new opportunities will come when you engage your customers. And for some people, the engagement will not bring new opportunities. It will be time for them to pivot and look at what new things can they do. This is not a time to put hand on the head and start crying. Moku, Mogwe, no. There's always, if you do your need analysis well, most businesses have a need. That is why customers are patronizing you. Desires may go down, but usually the needs always remain. Now, we also have to engage suppliers. Suppliers are also going through difficult times like us, like everybody in the market. If you have been receiving your stock or raw materials on a weekly basis, this may be a time that you change methods and start receiving your stock once a month. The level of redundancies for every company must be increased. The days of just in time is gone. You need to factor all the variables that are affecting police disruption on the road, traffic disruption, and make sure you accommodate that in your inventory plan. So, and of course, terms of payment will be affected. If you have been enjoying 30 days credits, I can bet suppliers are going to be asking you, please, we need 14 days credits. Now, we need to get ready for all these things. And of course, as you are talking to supplier, do not forget to talk to your creditors and financiers, like Dr. Basila said. A lot of banks are willing to extend moratoriums for credits at this time. Just like CBN has made some announcement and pronouncement, it is time for you to talk to your financiers and look for concessions here and there. Even the Inland Revenue have announced and delayed filing of returns. So we need to talk to all these people and make the best of whatever facilities that they have for us. Now, we have the most important group, and these are our employees. We also must engage them. Now, on my side, I always ask two fundamental questions. Can a company survive without the staff? Of course, no. And the second question is, can the staff have careers without the company? Of course, also no. The employees and the companies need each other for the two parties to win on a sustainable basis. At this time, each party must make concessions. Some staff will need to work from home. Some staff will need to sleep in the office or move near the office. We put them in a hotel nearby. And some staff will have to be on temporary vacation. The results we see from our tests, from the financial stress test, will determine the level of concession that each of the parties can bring to the table to salvage the company. The board of directors, the custodian of governance.
Sorry, Mr. Orolugbabe, sorry. Yes. I think you have like just 30 seconds to run through.
No problem. The board must come at this time to help management, to provide support, to minimize the stress level of those who are running the business. If opportunities come during this difficult time, opportunities will require resources. Board must rise up to the occasion to get resources for management. And of course, in conclusion, COVID will bring some things that will come to stay with us forever. Board must look forward to the future and get the businesses ready to deal with all the consequences and opportunities that these new challenges will bring forward, so that at the end of the day, we will also come as victorious. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orolugbabe. That was very insightful. So we're moving on to the next panelist. This is our third panelist on our list. So, and that is Mr. Femi Sofola. Mr. Femi Sofola, you're welcome.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so I would like to read out your question so you can address it. The question is, do insurance companies have a product to cater for companies in the light of this pandemic? You have 5 minutes, Mr. Femi Sofola. So I'd like you to really follow our timing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. Good morning. The question is, do insurance companies have a product to cater for companies in the light of this pandemic? In plain terms, the answer to the question is no. Unfortunately, as of today, there are no insurances, that covers or protects companies against the pandemic. Wimbledon actually did something similar. They are the majorly well-known organization that had done something of the sort after the SARS outbreak a couple of years ago. They're paying about $1.9 million for pandemic insurance, and this year, they are having to get a benefit in excess of $140 million. It's an eye-opener for everybody, honestly, and I can say for free that the practitioners today in the industry are already putting heads together, thoughts are being put together, resources are being put together to see what can be done, going forward for businesses and even for individuals. However, let me delve a little bit away from the corporate, slightly. Yes, there's some kind of insurance that would pay individuals in the event of a pandemic, and it's the loss of job insurance. Today we have a lot of insurance companies have a loss of job insurance embedded to existing life insurance products. There are diverse ways that it's being handled. should I lose my job during this pandemic simply because my organization says, oh, the financial crisis as a result of the pandemic has badly hit the business. As a result of this, some certain staff have to be let go of. And I mean, this is really the case for so many businesses today. You hear so many of those kind of stories. Let's assume that there's a loss of job insurance for any of such staff. The loss of job insurance policy would have paid that staff whatever benefit that had been agreed on from it. Now, let's now move away from this question slightly. Now, insurance is practically the backbone of every economy, and by extension, the backbone of every business. Unfortunately, insurance has always been seen as a cost rather than an investment. So what you find is that in any financial crisis or any situation where the business says you need to cut costs, you find businesses looking first at insurance. But honestly, this is because people see insurance as a cost in its plain terms. But really, insurance should actually be seen as an investment, because what you're doing is you're setting aside some token amount, which is largely insignificant compared to the risk that is being covered over a period of time. Should it occur, the insurance company is there to come to your aid. Let's look. Let me give you a classic illustration. I mean, it's public knowledge to us that there was a fire incident sometime at NNPC in Ogba, and what we found out during that incident is the fire didn't just burn the filling station; they also extended and burnt the car dealer shop right by the side. Question is, are there insurance policies in place to protect him and compensate him in that trying time? We're in the era of a pandemic that has, halted a lot of businesses. Businesses are slow. So let me use that same car dealership as an illustration. How many people are going to buy cars during the pandemic? Business is slow. Nothing is happening. Assuming, the owner has said to himself that, look, I'm not doing insurance for whatever reason. Oh, cash flow is not as it used to be. Policies due for renewal during the pandemic, and decides that, oh, I'm not going to take up insurance. The implication of what has happened is that he's going to sink even further financially, because he's going to have to dip hands into his own reserves to be able to replace those items that he has lost. Now, for SMEs, quite a number of them, yes, get personal funding. Some others actually get funding, from banks or financial institutions. So let's assume that some of those cars were actually purchased through some form of financing. Now, you have a loan to cater for with interest. Yes, there's some support from the financial institutions, for a lot of businesses with loans. However, you are still obliged to pay. You've also lost the assets or the property or the stock that should help you pay for those loans. You are in a deeper financial mess. So what we say to our customers is, yes, there's a pandemic. Yes, cash flow is not like it used to be. But the truth about it is, if you see insurance as the backbone of your business, you must invest in that insurance to ensure that should anything happen, even during this pandemic, you are not further put into a bigger mess financially. Now, beyond this pandemic, insurance is not just all about now as per the pandemic. It goes even way beyond the pandemic, because you see, for you to even start up a business and run the business effectively and grow a sustainable business over a period of time, it's important that you do the right risk management. So fantastic insurances are done with the right risk management first done by the business. So I set up an SME business, say a cement distribution company. The first thing that comes to my mind really is to list out all my risk exposures, that my business is faced with. What are the exposures that a cement distribution company is faced with? One, is exposed to the risk of fire or flood. The products are easily damaged by water. He's also exposed to some financial risk. The business is also exposed to fraud or theft by his staff or even by external body. Now, for me to run that business effectively, I cannot take my eyes away from this risk. And what insurance does for you effectively is to carry that risk away from you and reduce the risk exposures that your business is faced with. Yes, you have quite a number of risks. some of these risks are insured, some are not insured. For those that are insurable, it's important that you transfer those risks to insurance companies. It will be very, very interesting to know that by the time you do a list out of all the risk exposures of your business, more than 50% of it are easily transferable. And then once you're able to transfer them to insurance companies, you can go to sleep and then find other measures to be able to manage your other risks. I've heard some person say to me that if there are risks, one of the best ways is just avoid it. I don't want any trouble. But you see, avoidance really is not the best form of risk management. Why do I want to avoid the risk? Then why am I in business? For as long as you do business, for as long as you move around as an individual, you are exposed to risk. And it's important that you sit down and list out these risks and manage them effectively. Insurance companies today are not insensitive to the plight of insureds and potential customers during this period. And it's public knowledge that quite a number of insurance companies have come up with some palliative measures to cushion the effect of this pandemic. We've had a couple of insurance companies come up and give discounts on motor insurance and some other products. This is saying to the customer that the risk is still there. It has not been eliminated, but we also understand that cash flow for you is slow. So we're going to give you this palliative that is going to cushion the effect for you. Take up your insurance. Do not expose yourself, but in effect, you can get it at some discounted amount. That's the consideration that insurance companies have put together. Like I said at the beginning, with respect to specific products on pandemic, the insurance industry is sitting down together and looking at ways to put something together in the best interest of potential insured.
Thank you very much, Mr. Femi Sofola. Thank you very much, Mr. Femi Sofola.
All right, thanks.
That was very insightful. We are very, very, very grateful for that. So our next panelist on the block is Mr. Shola Adekoya. So for Mr. Shola Adekoya.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, I can see you. So the question that we have for you this morning to respond to is, what new businesses or sectors, other than the apparent ones such as logistics, do you see emerging from this crisis that people should be paying attention to and possibly venture into? Another part of that question is, how can companies metamorphose to stay alive? E.g., GoCada has become a delivery company.
All right. Thank you very much. So when I get this type of questions that, what should people be thinking about? There is the high level and then there is the very practical answer. I would start with the what I call very practical, or let me give the thinking behind the how to identify these businesses from my perspective. First of all, when you start up a business or when you start, an entity, you're doing that to take advantage of an opportunity that you've observed. So around us every day, there are business opportunities that we can identify. And during the whole COVID lockdown period, the question is that have we paid enough attention to identify the businesses that kept on running despite the lockdown, kept on doing business despite the lockdown? So the first thing is the entrepreneur paying attention to the opportunities that have shown themselves during the lockdown. And the way to think about those opportunities are begin to, generally, everybody's talking about, if you already have a business, you've probably seen a drop in demand. But the question is, the customer needs that have always driven that demand, is it still there? If it's still there, there's a different approach to how to look at your business. But if that need has changed or priorities of those customers have changed, and I think there's a totally different approach to that as well. So it really depends on what type of business you're into or whether or not you want to pivot. Like you said, GoCada sort of like metamorphose into something else. So my first answer is pay attention to what has worked during COVID. And the second one is pay attention to the shift in people's behaviors. I will list a few industries that I've applied this thinking to, and I've sort of like come up with say there are industries that you can look at. First of all, you probably will have found out that during the lockdown period, medical supplies kept on going. Different, people even took chloroquine, which wasn't in supply before. So you found out that medical supply, paracetamol, we can't do without healthcare. So medical supplies kept on going. So it's an area that people can look into. What can you do in that sector? I would even go as far as, the whole COVID thing exposed the fact that we don't even have the right equipment or enough equipment in hospitals. Are there equipments that you can supply to hospitals, maybe on lease or full purchase? Those are opportunities that came up during the ventilators. Was a big eye opener. The number of ventilators that we had in Nigeria was, when you look at it, is, there's just a huge gap there. So medical supplies is one. The second one that, which, to be honest, regardless of what was happening, always going, is food. And then you look at food from the agriculture side of things to the processing side of things, and then the retailing of food, getting into the customers. People kept on ordering for food. Even the government had to open food markets to make sure it kept on going during the lockdown. And the few people that had passed to move up and down included the food suppliers. So food is these industries are wide. I mentioned these industries, but they're very wide. It's for you to the industry and say, what can I do in there? Because agriculture, you could actually be, supplying to farmers, or doing the farming yourself, or even storing or processing. So there's a huge value chain in that space. There's also personal hygiene. If you think about the whole COVID thing, it came from viruses that has been transmitted, people, person to person. Now, everybody is aware of personal hygiene. It's a market. People that used to do sanitizers in small scales are doing it bigger now. And, are there alternatives to what is in the market today? Are there cheaper ways of getting the same thing done? So personal hygiene is an opportunity. Telecoms continues to be big. Whilst we're all at home, we need to be connected to people. People are still doing, are there internet solutions that you can provide? And then education. You find a lot more children now saying, well, can we do e-learning? Can we learn online? These are opportunities that, look, if you can find solutions that meet people's needs, like I was saying before, there might have been a drop in demand for school, but there's still the need for education. So how else can you still fulfill that need? E-commerce is doing well. People are now beginning to order online, and your e-commerce could be on your Instagram, it could be on your Facebook. Can you help people sell? During the COVID period, Facebook opened the Facebook market in the States. I'm actually quite confident about that kind of product. It's a social marketing product. Those things are still there. There's also online gaming. People still need to have fun. There is need for people to entertain themselves, have fun. I would even go as far as dating. Now that people will probably be staying at home more, not engaging as much, but people still need to get married. They still need to get hooked up. We're still human beings. We need to procreate. So you would find that people, dating sites would also enjoy a lot of traffic at this point in time. And I think the last one I just want to also highlight is the global shift in supply chain. A lot of companies, I think Isaac was talking about, backups upon backups even failing. Now we're going to begin to see huge shift in supply chain globally, where people are going, well, I can't rely on one country to supply all my products anymore. I need supplies from different places. So you will begin to find people looking for alternatives to their current suppliers. And guess what? Is there anything that you can actually move out of Nigeria, subject to the ease of doing business at ports and stuff? But the point is that the opportunity is there. We're all on Zoom now. I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of times, Zoom has actually increased in value. So during the pandemic or the lockdown, there are businesses that kept on going. And it's a case of, can you identify the needs that people still have, but demands have shifted, the behavior has shifted. You mentioned GoCada morphing into a delivery company. Yes. People will call it pivoting. You can call it pivoting. You can call it metamorphosizing into something else. The point is, can you use your existing resources, your existing assets in a different way? Another example of a GoCada is OYO hotels, on your own hotels. These guys, if you pay attention to them, they've been focusing more on OYO Nova Gyms. So they have the customer base, literally like a customer base of people that have come to the hotel, and they're now marketing to them that, look, you can be at home, but you can still use your OYO gyms. So then these are gyms that, they send you, they dispatch a product to you, and it allows you to do different workouts that you will have done in their gyms physically. So you can now do that at home. That's another way of still reaching out to the same customer, extracting value out of the assets that you have. So even insurance, instead of focusing on like car insurance, this might be a chance to start talking about life insurance to people that, look, nobody knows how long you'll be around for, but can you start thinking about life insurance? The point is that your insurance license remains the same. So maybe you can extend to life. You understand the business. People that fabricate equipment can start thinking about fabricating health equipment as opposed to just maybe, I don't know what equipment you do, but you can actually do health equipment. You can do agricultural equipment. The point is that it's still engineering. The same way GoCada is just saying, look, we have the bikes. If you can't carry people, we'll carry products. So,
Thank you very much, Mr. Shola.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shola Adekoya. That was quite broad. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to our last panelist on the block. That is Mr. Tope Ogunshimo. Mr. Tope, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. So our question for you is, in what areas can companies maximize technology to mitigate the effects of the pandemic on their businesses and adapt to the new realities? Another question is remote work a sustainable practice in Nigeria post-COVID-19? What kind of impact will this have on the nature of businesses, industries that will be most affected?
Thank you very much, Ebi. I'll be very brief, and I'll also be very practical. It goes without saying that we're in a very unprecedented time, and that we're now saying this is the new normal, even though I still hear a lot of people saying that very soon we'll go back to, lives will go back to normal. But the reality of things is that things will not go back to normal. Things will continue to go with this trend. The last time the world saw something like this was probably maybe Second World War. And people are beginning to react to some of these changes. Because it's affecting the way we live our lives, the way we communicate, the way we do business, the way we even work, the way we even interact. And virtual working tools have been on the rise. Since the COVID thing started, virtual reality tools like Zoom, the WebEx, the Teams, Microsoft Teams, and Meet. So those are companies that people are now trying to patronize. In terms of running virtual meetings and virtual office. That's. But one thing that is common is that it's change, and at every time where there is a disruption in technology or there's a disruption in the way things are done, new businesses come up. So if you think about this generally, there is pros and cons to all of this that's going on, and only companies that will refuse to react to some of these changes may have to take a bow and go. That's the honest, and that's why this conversation is actually very, very interesting to have it with a lot of SMEs and maybe also entrepreneurs, because there are a whole lot of opportunities available for us as of now. And I'll give you an example. During the last disruption, during the mobile telephony, you had a mobile phone company that held the major share, Nokia. Nokia was like the major share. If you didn't have Nokia at that time, it will mean that you're not really using it. That was the perception at that time, And some organizations, some smaller companies came up and said, okay, why don't you come up with Android? Some mobile telephony that can allow you use so many other applications. And guess what happened that time? Because of maybe the culture and because Nokia felt at that time that we won the market share. Everybody generally likes Nokia. We're not going to start to do video call and going to do cameras and going to do 10 megabytes. And so they decided not to really change. I mean, they decided not to adapt to that changes that happened at the time. And before you know it, likes of Samsung, iPhones and the rest. I mean, it's almost everywhere. And you see a whole lot of iPhone and China phones that you see. I mean, that's what is predominantly used everywhere. So there is a need for, I mean, as an entrepreneur or as SME, to think that periods like this, it comes with its own opportunity. If you refuse to react and reinvent yourself, the reality is that you might have to take a bow and go. And I also give you an example. I mean, one of the speakers also said that this pandemic is not unique to Nigeria alone. And that's the honest truth. I mean, it has nothing. This is a global pandemic. It's affecting everybody. I mean, everybody worldwide. And I'll give you an example. So you know, another company because I partly live here and in the UK. In the UK, it's a very big textile, lifestyle and fashion company called Primark. Primark has a culture of selling clothes to maybe the average or maybe lower class people, but they sell very affordable clothes, you know, but they don't have any online presence. They don't have any virtual presence. All they relied on is physical presence. And when you go there, it's always time, you know, and that was their culture. I would like this, and also because it's affordable and they had very good quality clothes, you know. Just to think about what is going on now with this pandemic, maybe nobody ever prepared that a pandemic like this will happen. Companies such as Boho, Very.co.uk in the UK that have almost the same business idea. It's just that they don't run a virtual, they run majorly on virtual. They don't have any physical brick and mortar store. Are the ones who are actually thriving now. And I can tell you, just 2 weeks ago during this pandemic, I had a friend of mine who was celebrating a birthday, and I needed to order cake. Guess what happened? A lot of the big cake confectionery companies in Lagos and maybe even probably Nigeria, because I had to do a quick research, didn't have that online presence, that virtual presence. And you can imagine the effects on their businesses. So for me, I can tell you that this pandemic is a leveler for everybody. It's a leveler for everybody as SME, as an entrepreneur. The advantage or the opportunity that we even have is even greater at this time. I think this is the best time to be an entrepreneur or to even be an SME in this country, because it takes, if you look at the way big conglomerates and organizations are run, it probably takes maybe a longer time for them to adapt to changes or to go back and re-strategize, to realign the strategy. Sometimes they need to go to board, but as SME or entrepreneur, you can make some of these decisions almost immediately and you move on. So the reason I said is a leveler is because just thinking about that cake company, I had to now go ahead, speak to somebody who usually send me a message on Instagram from time to time. And I went to her page and all I wanted was what I got, you know. Going by big names at that time wasn't even important. The big names couldn't actually resolve my problem. Now the small company that runs maybe probably in one bedroom was able to actually resolve that problem. So that's how it's important for entrepreneurs or as SMEs to really think deeper, to think in depth at this time and see the monumental opportunities that is just flying around. I currently play in the ed space where we build solutions for education, and I can tell you, I'm a preacher of what I'm a testimony of what I preach. So many years ago, when I got into this space, there were so many people. It wasn't like the place was a big vacuum. There was so many people, but people decided not to adapt to the new realities of things. But I came in and said, okay, this is what is happening. We can move some steps and achieve even better. And that was how I came in, and I decided to sit very comfortable in the space where I play now. Now, if you think about the other virtual conferencing and the meeting solution tools that are out now, just think about the new realities of things and think about what would happen maybe in the near future. And I'll give you an example. Today now, we currently have, in my own office, we have over 100 staff, and we're thinking that before this time, we're already thinking that we can move virtually, move a lot of things virtually, let people work from home. And then we had started some of those things. Now, people are beginning to complain that this virtual thing cannot work for them. And I will tell you the reason is because they're very lazy. Very soon, people will start to observe that the virtual work is even more efficient and is less expensive. I have a friend who says to me yesterday that he worked with the UK government. He's a very senior in the UK government. And he said to me, I took a break for a couple of days and I came back to work and I didn't sleep until 3 a.m. I said, I'm wondering why I had to even take that break in the first place. So people need to realize that the current situation is the reality of things. We should stop deceiving ourselves that the new normal is just for a short time and some things will change maybe in the near future and people will go back to the old. There's nothing being old. This is the new reality.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ogunshemo. Hello, Mr. Ogunshemo.
Okay. Hello.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was quite insightful. I'm sure if I leave the mic to you, you have a lot to say, as much as other members of the panel. Okay, we have a couple of questions at this point in time. So I would like to remind our attendees that there is a question and answer portal on this platform that you can type in your questions. So we have a couple of questions there that I would like to read out and address to the specific panelists. Okay, the first question here from Mr. Abiola Babajide says, Mr. Shofola, are you saying while the pandemic is on, small business owners can still take up insurance policies to protect themselves? What kind of policy will you suggest, since that decision was not taken years back? So I believe this question goes to Mr. Shofola.
Mr. Babajide, yes. Regardless of whether you had been taking insurances before or not, you can actually start to take one now. The truth about it is life, kind of teaches us all a lesson, and then we begin to do the right thing, from that moment. So the kind of policy you take is largely determined by the kind of business that you do. So I'll give an illustration. If you're into haulage business, then you must be very clear on your risk exposures. One major risk exposure is that you have people's goods that you're moving from point A to point B, and your responsibility is to deliver that goods to point B in good condition. Should anything happen during that transit, you have to pay. Then for you that are in haulage business, you have to have a goods in transit insurance policy. If you are running, say, a recharge card outlet where you sell a number of recharge cards, basically, you also have risks associated with your staff, diverting those recharge cards. You have a risk of fire in your shop. If you run a warehouse, like I gave as an illustration earlier, you have the risk of fire as well. So the truth about it is, yes, there's some generic products that might be largely, useful to most businesses, but typically it's important for you as a business owner to identify your risks on your kind of business, and then take the right, insurance policy, for that. So, that's why the insurance professionals, we're always available to support you in that regard, to be able to, guide you on what kind of products, best suits you and your business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shofola, for that detailed response. Another question from Mr. Anthony Esongwedo is on risk assessment. So the question is, considering that insurance companies are also assessing their risks, are these products like job loss insurance and business loss going to be readily available? I believe this question is also for Mr. Shofola.
Okay, response is yes. Now, the loss of job insurance is readily available. Quite a number of life insurance companies have that in place. Some have it as an embedded product on an existing life policy. Some have it as a standalone, depending on exactly what you want. So if you go to any reputable life insurance company, you can be rest assured to be able to get what you want based on your own specification. With respect to business loss, so business loss is broad in its own self. So any kind of loss that my business is exposed to that is insurable, yes, you have it readily available. The fire covers, the burglary covers, the goods in transit covers, the marine insurance covers, they are readily available anytime you do want it. What we currently do not have in the market are insurance policies that compensates you as a business as a result of the financial implication of this pandemic. And like I said earlier, this is something that the industry is looking at. We are proactive enough to sit down and look at what can be done with respect to that going forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shofola. We have a question from Temitope Odutola. Question is, what new business venture can school owners engage in aside from school supplies, which is being affected now? I believe I can direct this question to Mr. Shola Adekoya.
Okay. My view is, whatever you want to do, so first of all, look at your environment. So who are the parents that you used to serve, that used to come to school, and the kids? What are their needs? The question is, first of all, your areas of expertise is education. Are you able to find a way of remotely serve them, or remote lessons for parents that are willing or that have the internet capabilities to be able to do it? That's number one. So you can actually get your teachers to do one-on-one lessons online. At least I do this for my kids. I think it's something that you can do. That's one. And because you already have the list of parents and students, you're not chasing up and down to look for new customers. One. Number two, you have space. I don't know what your area is like and stuff, but can you do pop-up food stores and food shopping or kids food sales for your parents, where they can just come in, pick what their kids would like to, their kids would eat and stuff, because they also need to eat. But just look for solutions that, first of all, utilize your teachers remotely, and utilize your property, if possible. Things around food, look for that things. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shofola. I would also like Mr. Orolubagbe to say one or two things regarding that question. What new business venture can school owners engage in aside from school supplies, which is being affected now?
Well, just like Shola said, do we have a need for education? And I can tell you, one of the greatest legacy that any parent would like to leave for their children is education. So the need for education still remains as pressing as it has always been. So I will not suggest that an education business person should pivot and go to something else. Rather, it's to look at the delivery platforms. Before now, it is classroom that we use to train our children. With social distancing, the classroom is being constrained. And you will notice that most schools now are already offering online education, whether the way we are doing it, which is live, or asynchronous, where you record and the students can play at their convenience. So the school needs to critically look at the delivery platforms. What you'll be doing now is to educate, so they all have skills to be able to teach online. They're very comfortable with all the tools that's available, and they're learning new pedagogies. Because what works in the classroom is not going to be as effective online. So, but online offers so much opportunities to introduce new elements, new variety. You can introduce music, videos, exercises. There are blackboard, whiteboards, annotation, all these things, and breakout rooms that's available even on Zoom that we're using now. It is a time to start rapidly retraining your faculty or teachers to be able to give seamless facilitation online. In addition to the regular education, children do need lessons. It's the time that education business people should look at giving intervention programs in specific subjects. If it's mathematics, arts, and all that. And of course, after school hours, what should the children be doing? Games, entertainment. Now, children entertainment is a forte for children educators. You remember Sesame Street of those days? Nothing stops school proprietors from setting up a little studio, that will engage children, and those activities can be sold. They could be online live, or they could be recorded. Just like they play games on their phones, schools can engage children, in many entertaining ways. So I will just ask you as a business person to ask yourself, what can you do with what you have? Because it is what you have that you are going to leverage into the future. There's not much you can do about what you don't have. In fact, you can get into trouble. But if you look inside yourself, you will find out there is so much that is within you. There is so much that your teachers can do. There are so many things that the school facilities, many ways that the school facilities can be used, to make some profitable, to get involved in profitable activities. That will be my immediate advice for an education proprietor, an education business person. Look inside.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Orolugbavi. That was very, very insightful. Thank you very much. So at this point, we seem to have taken all the questions that we have. Please note that instead of raising hands, you could just type in your questions for us to treat the questions. At this point in time, we'll move on to the next point on the webinar, and would invite our chairman, in person of Mr. Egbati Momo, to introduce our Investment Venture Capital Mentorship Program. Mr. Imomo.
Ebi, thank you. Thank you so much for running this webinar so professionally.
Thank you very much.
Also for the panelists for spending valuable time in educating all of us. We were in a new norm, and I'll give you two examples. Remember last year, it's about a year ago when we had this program. If you recall, we had this program in a hotel, and we were going to start, correct me, I think we were going to start at 9 o'clock, and at 10:30, we're still scratching our heads because people had not showed up. Can you imagine if we had scheduled this meeting for today with the rain bucketing down? Yeah. I think by now we would not have even started. So the new norm is what we are now using, Zoom, to connect with each other on a timely basis. So we have a new system, a new norm, which can connect us on schedule and indeed introduce some discipline into our lives. The second thing I'd like to share with you, these are sort of anecdotal. But today I was typing something and I put COVID. The spell check doesn't even know how to spell COVID. COVID is not in our system yet. But if you pick up the television, even the youngest Nigerian or anywhere in the world at the age of 5 will know the word COVID. They may say COVID or COVID or whatever it is, but they know the phenomenon, which means that phenomenon is a reality that has come to stay with us and has fashioned our life today, and I believe will fashion our lives going. As I said a year ago, we set up this mentorship program. I believe the reasons why we set them up are even more required today. We thought there was a need to bring together experienced people, people who had gone through the crucible, and our entrepreneurs, to make them the experience available to people who wanted to go into this SME space. Why SME, you may ask? As I said last year, all over the world, developed and developing economies, SMEs provide close to, if not more than 90% of employment opportunities. And I believe that will still be so going forward, and even more so as we go forward. Clearly, SMEs, medium scale, big scale companies will have to adjust, as you heard from the panelists. But I think that the opportunities will still remain for the SMEs, so that indeed those who will have the opportunities can grow. My gut feeling is that there are a lot more people who may want to enter this space, but be careful, because the space may look so inviting. We don't want people to come in and lose their shares. This is why I believe VenCap can provide an assistance. We have this system whereby through VenCap, through Moiwa, we can bring people who wish to come in and participate in our program. I believe that the needs will be different. There'll be people who still haven't fashioned what they want to do. That's an area we can help. There are those already in the race and probably are facing some difficulties, and we can also help. There are those who want to grow, and that's also an area we can help. So the needs will be different. The challenge to Moiwa and her team is indeed how you can actually separate the 2 or 3 groups out so that the help we give will be appropriate and targeted at the different people. We are committed to continue with this program. We've had a good number of experienced mentors. I would like to thank them. I'm not sure how many of them are online, but if you're on, I thank you for participating. I hope when we call on you, you will join us. I look forward to hearing from you all. I see that about at least 72 people who are connected, to see whether indeed this methodology of reaching out to people is efficient. And if so, whether we should do it more often going forward. We are committed to continue with the mentorship, but as I said, we've got to be a little bit more selective and focused on what kind of mentorship program, what kind of assistance Investment One will provide to people. Some may be just holding hands, having a chat, telling what the opportunities are, some of it you heard today. And also some may be just, we may have to help by putting investments and helping you to grow. Isaac, I'd like to give experience. This question of schooling at home, I think we got to think about parents as well. I was talking to my son the other day, who has now the responsibility of teaching the children. He says, Dad, I have a problem. He says, I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to teach these children. So we may even spend time teaching parents how to teach their children. I mean, I'm not in that business anymore, but I can imagine if I know how to go and teach young children how to do certain things which I probably never learned in my life, it may be difficult. So maybe there's an opportunity there. Train parents to become teachers again so that they can be better teachers to their parents. Maiwa, thank you very much for putting this all together. Maybe, thank you. I couldn't see your face. I saw your bow tie, but I couldn't see your face. So anyway, when I grow older, I'll buy a bow tie like yours so that I can put on.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, I don't know. Whilst the chairman was speaking, we received one more question, and I think it's very important. So I don't know. The question goes to Mr. Shofola again. I think this insurance issue is really popping up, and we really need to look at it. Someone said, Elvis said, I run a garment factory. Last year, we were affected by the flood for over 2 months, which we incurred a lot of losses. What kind of insurance could we have bought to help our business during this downtime?
Okay, thank you, Eddie. So Elvis, the standard insurance policy you should have taken up is the fire and special perils policy. What it does is to cover you against the risk of fire or any other allied or associated perils, which flood is part of it. It's important for you to actually put that in place, whilst at the same time putting together other risk management measures that would help reduce the risk of such flood in the future. Because, I mean, aside the fact that you have insurance in place, one of the things as professionals that we do is to help you look at your risk holistically and help you with risk solutions that can help you reduce the risk of such even occurring. Because the truth about it is, yes, you are protecting yourself against, protecting yourself against that loss. Should this occur, we should pay. But at the same time, you see that gap, that inconvenience alone, if you have the right risk management measures in place to reduce the risk of it happening, it also helps your business to flow even more seamlessly. So fire and special perils policy is the most ideal policy for you in this instance, Elvis.
Thank you very much, Soshofola.
Right.
So at this point, we'd like to invite Maiwa to close to wrap up this webinar. Maiwa.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, once more. We really appreciate you all. We want to thank you for your time. And I believe the session has been insightful. I'm sure we've learned a lot, and we expect that these lessons learned will be taken back and applied to our different businesses. So just like the chairman said, we have the mentorship scheme. So tonight we'll send the link out. We have everyone's email. So as many that are interested in being a part of the mentorship scheme can just register. We'll send the link out to everyone. And you can still visit our website for more information about our services. So like I said earlier on, we're a venture capital firm and we're passionate about SMEs. It gladdens us when your businesses are doing well. So come talk to us. We do advisory, we support, we fund as well. We're open, you can talk to us, go to our website and you get more information about us. So we expect that everyone will take advantage of this mentorship program and sign on, and you can get all the help you need for your business. Once more, we want to appreciate everyone. We say thank you for your time. We say thank you for staying with us. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maiwa. Thank you for putting it all together, and all of you have a
thank you.
long
Thank
weekend.
you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bless you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.